China is afraid of its own people. And I will tell you why. Hi, this is Major Gaurav Arya and you're watching Defensive Offense English. Like, subscribe and press the bell icon so that you get the notifications immediately. Jai Hind. Friends, a lot is being discussed about how China can be finally contained because China is on an upward northern trajectory. And people talk about the string of pearls. People talk about how China is now aggressively buying land, blackmailing nations into surrendering, and how China is now on the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh and trying to pressurize the Indian armed forces there. So all these things are happening. And I think we need an aggressive policy in case we wish to counter China. Putting our troops at 16, 17, 18, 19,000 feet for an elongated period of time, or having these core commander level talks, I don't think they're going to help very much because China is not a great believer in agreements. We had a lot of agreements regarding the line of actual control with China. China just tore those papers up and China decided that no, we are not going to abide by these agreements, and China has never abided by international agreements ever. China does things that China pleases. Now, how do you contain a country like China? A country which is no doubt an economic superpower. We've often discussed about Pakistan's, cracks in the Pakistani society. We have discussed about fault lines in Pakistan. What are China's fault lines? You cannot defeat China from the outside, but China can be made to crumble from the inside. I wrote an article for this online defense, national security and geopolitical news magazine called the Chanakya Forum. And I wrote this article called The Great Fall of China. The Great Fall of China, you can see the link down there in the description box. And the Great Fall of China actually defines how China can be made to crumble from the inside. Let us first understand, this is not a war of narratives between India and China. This battle is civilizational. This battle is existential. Heavy words? Yes. Sure, they are heavy words. But think of the soldiers at minus 25, minus 30 right now, right? And think how China has brought things to such a pass where two of the world's largest armies are face to face for now over 8 months or so. And it's going to be near shortly once winter is over. And there are no signs of permanent disengagement. Now, I want to today give a brief roadmap on how we can tackle China. And the best way to tackle China is to understand what are the fault lines, or what is that one major fault line that China is afraid of that will make China crumble. Friends, China is not afraid of America or India. Let's be very clear and categorical. If we think that China is shivering because of America and India, I think that is something that we need to take a relook at, because it's not. China is afraid of its own people. And I will tell you why. China is scared of local Chinese people, especially the Han Chinese, which form the lion's share of China's population, the vast majority of China's population. Now, why is it so? It is so because if you see that there are 3-4 indicators to this. Number one, when you land in Hong Kong, and this is something that everybody knows, so I'm not telling you anything that is new. Everybody knows that when you land in Hong Kong, I've personally experienced it more than 7-8 times. You land in Hong Kong, from there you go to that immigration outside the airport when you enter mainland China. As soon as you go half a kilometer ahead of that immigration, half a kilometer ahead, your Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, WhatsApp, everything stops functioning. Everything stops functioning. And China says that now you have to register and use their own social media platforms. Now, why is this? Is it because China takes great pride in having things which are indigenous, which are Chinese? Many of our communist friends would, take great pains to convince us that, this is actually the case. And what is wrong if China takes pride in its own systems? No, China does not. And I will tell you why. Can you name one Chinese car which is a global brand, or 2 or 3? Can you name Chinese motorcycle brands? Can you name Chinese truck brands? China's entire economy is based on contract manufacturing. China is not the world's largest manufacturer, it is the world's largest contract manufacturer. So, for example, Apple tells Foxconn is a Taiwanese company, Apple tells Foxconn or contracts Foxconn to manufacture iPhones. Foxconn further starts a factory in China, India, or other countries and then manufactures iPhones there. I'm giving you an example because iPhone is a product that is available everywhere, so you'll understand better. So this is what China does. China has almost no brands of its own. There could be one odd brand of China, I'm not denying that, like Huawei and other brands and all that. But apart from that, China has no brands. It is basically contract manufacturing. So Nike shoes, which are American, will be made in China. China has almost no brands of its own. The reason why I'm telling you this is, now Weibo is a Chinese social media platform. The reason why China has Weibo is not because China wants to create a platform that is intrinsically Chinese. No, China wants to create that platform simply because China seeks to control what its citizens think and want. It wants to control what their citizens feel. And this is China's biggest fault line, and this is something that we must understand. China is afraid of the Chinese people. Now, whether it's in the 50s, you had the famous Tibetan uprising, which was a democracy uprising, whether you had the Tiananmen Square, that famous man standing in front of the tank with those two shopping bags, defying the might of the Chinese PLA and the Chinese Communist Party. Thousands upon thousands of students were killed. Or you're talking about the revolts which happened in China in the 2000s, or you're talking about the recent violence which is happening for a very long time, over a year in Hong Kong. There is a great deal of yearning for democracy in China. And democracy, and hence public opinion, because these two things are very closely related. My friends, democracy is China's biggest fault line. This article that I wrote for Chanakya Forum, which is in the description box below, is called The Great Fall of China. How does China fall? Now, all the tensions inside China are related to democracy today. Because there are a few people, the people who rule China, they have an opinion. It is only some people who are allowed to use Twitter in China. Some people are allowed to use Facebook, and these people are the voices of the Chinese Communist Party. But other people are not. Now, there is a massive power struggle going on inside China. And India should take advantage of that. How? Now, let me come down to the nuts and bolts, the nitty-gritties. It is important for us to realize that democracy is something that China is extremely afraid of, which is why anything which enables free opinion, which is the cornerstone of any democracy, anything which enables free opinion, for example, media, for example, social media, is absolutely banned in China. It has to be state controlled. Try writing an email to your Chinese friend in China. Write an email from your Gmail ID or any other ID. Write to him saying that I would like your opinion on the democracy movement inside China. Use words like democracy. Use words like Tibet. Use words like Uyghur Muslims. Use words like Xinjiang. Use words like Tiananmen Square. Half your email will disappear before it reaches your friend. And if you continuously try to send your friend, the same friend, similar emails with these words, he will receive a visit from the local police. Such is the control of the Chinese Communist Party on free thinking and free opinion in China. So, why has this happened? Let me tell you before we get into the nuts and bolts, as I said. This happens because, there is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And all of us who have studied management in MBA, they teach you this very preliminary. There's no rocket science that I'm telling you. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, let me tell you what is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Here is a triangle in front of you. And with the help of this Maslow's triangle, I will explain Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the bottom, you will see physiological needs. And these physiological needs, my friends, are like food, water, warmth, and rest. So what the human body or the human being, any human being craves is food, water, warmth, and rest. Now, once these needs have been fulfilled, and once these needs have been taken care of, he moves to safety needs, which are security and safety. Now, he needs a roof on his head. He needs to feel secure from enemies, from attack. That is the second level. The third level is belongingness and love needs, intimate relationships, friends. So a person who has physiological needs fulfilled, who has safety needs fulfilled, will then move to belongingness and love needs. Society, intimate relationships, friends, family. Once this third need from the bottom has been met, then he moves to esteem needs. And esteem needs are prestige, feeling of accomplishment that I have achieved something in life. I'm respected in this society. These are needs of prestige, feeling of accomplishment. And the last and final need of any human being, as per Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is self-actualization. Self-actualization is achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. Now, what has happened in case of China is there is a contract between the Chinese state and the Chinese citizen. And the contract between the state and the citizen is, we will make you economically prosperous, we will take care of all your needs. Right? You have food, water, shelter, obviously you have family, and China is a rising superpower, so your prestige needs and everything is taken care of. But you will keep your mouth shut. So, in exchange for giving economic security, and rather I should say economic superstardom, and taking care of all those needs in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what China does is quietly take away self-actualization, which is at the top. People in China crave democracy. And this is, if you look at China not from the prism of foreign policy or military alone, but if you look at China through the prism of management, you will realize that this is China's actual Achilles heel, the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Now, what are the nuts and bolts? What everybody needs to do, all the democratic countries in the world who are now rallying against China, what they should do is get together, form a fund, $4 or $5 billion, and then have offices in the major cities of the world. You could have an office in Washington, you could have an office in New Delhi, in France, in England, other places in the world which are democracy loving, and then create awareness of what China is doing and there is lack of democracy. How can a person be part of the United Nations Security Council? Because the UN is based on human decency and there is no human decency in China. I have personally visited China. People are afraid. People don't like to talk. If you talk about democracy in China, they'll just smile at you and they'll ignore the question. They're so scared of their own government. So this is what China is. You must encourage democracy movements inside China through use of social media. Set up social media cells in Taiwan. The Taiwanese speak Chinese. There is a slight difference in the Chinese they speak, but essentially the basic language is the same. You can do that. You can set up your information warfare cells inside Taiwan. Right? You can get people from Hong Kong there. There are many people who wish to immigrate and they are immigrating to Taiwan. You can get them, freedom-loving people of Hong Kong. And then slowly and slowly using Chinese media platforms, Chinese social media platforms, pushing the narrative inside China through Weibo, through other social media platforms, that this is what happens in America. This is what happens in countries like India. This is what happens in France and England, where people have the right to say whatever they want to say. And this is a right that is guaranteed by the Constitution of India, America, France, England, any other democracy-loving country. But this is not guaranteed in China. And this is China's weakest link, and this weakest link must be exploited day in and day out. The people of Europe, the people of America, the people of India, they must be told that this is something China is doing. This is something that China aggressively pushes as foreign policy. This is something that you need to teach in Delhi University. This is something that you need to tell people in Harvard, in Oxford, in all the big universities of the world. You need to tell people about China. You need to tell the truth about China. Also, make it expensive for your own companies, including companies in India or America or Europe. Make it very expensive for them to do business with China. You can't stop altogether because there are rules and regulations, but make sure that there are enough hurdles created so nobody can do business with China. And tell China from every platform that when are the next elections? We need a date. Create international pressure on China. We need a date. We need a fixed timeline. When are you planning on having elections? When will the sham of a communist party stop browbeating and frightening and killing and imprisoning its own citizens just because they have a contrary opinion? This is something what India must focus on. This article that I've written also deals with an overall policy, the structure of which I have very briefly defined, China will not stop. Friends, China will never stop. Because nobody has ever actively tried to stop China. The Chinese are difficult to read. There is a bamboo curtain. The Chinese are inscrutable. This is what foreign policy mandarins all over the world will keep on talking about, whether in India or in the US. No, let's not upset China. This is what people say. Now, why not upset China? It is this kid glove handling of China. This is this mollycoddling of China, which has led to this misadventure in eastern Ladakh, for which China is paying a very heavy price. We were already there all the time, so we don't pretty much care. It's just that we have enhanced troop levels and logistic level. Otherwise, we were there all the time. But China has come there now. They're suffering at that temperature and that altitude. They have no clue what hit them. They've never operated at such altitudes. But at the same time, Chinese misadventure everywhere, all over the world. All over the world. And what is the reason for this? How does China stop India's progress? Think about it. What is happening inside your country? What is happening inside your country is that there is trouble in Kashmir, there is trouble in East Ladakh, there is trouble in the Red Corridor. People from various universities, mostly from the arts stream, mostly, not all, but mostly, from the liberal arts stream, coming up with funny slogans. You have all these things happening in and around Delhi, this protest and that protest. How can a country progress? How can India progress? How can India become a global power when it is 100% dedicating all its energies only to solving its internal crises? It's not possible. If you want to be a global power, you must be stable at home. And this is something that China directly and China through Pakistan will never allow in India. They will keep on poking you here and there. If it's not Kashmir, it's the Red Corridor. And Red Corridor would extend right from Telangana to Andhra Pradesh, going right up to Bengal and the northeast, Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand in between, Bengal, even Uttar Pradesh, Sonbhadra in UP is a known Naxal area. So all these things are being done with foreign funding. And to what end? To make sure that India remains internally unstable. So it's so busy looking after its own internal matters that it cannot grow outside. And it cannot be a problem for China. This is exactly what China wants. Look at where we've all fought our wars. 1947-48 was in Kashmir. 1962, again in the east and in the north. If you look at 65, the Pakistan war, again in Jammu and Kashmir. And of course, Punjab, some parts of Punjab. If you look at the 71 war, east and west. If you look at 1999, Kargil, which is in Ladakh, erstwhile J&K state. Where is terrorism happening in India? It's happening in Kashmir, again in the north. Where did the Khalistani movement happen? It happened the terrorism happened in Punjab, which is in the west. Where is the Red Corridor? Imagine, look at the map of India and you will understand that all our defense policy imperatives, because of what is happening to us, are reactive in nature, and all of us are looking either north or west or some other direction in the east. Nobody is looking at the oceans. Nobody is looking at the seas. The seas, the Malacca Straits, the South China Sea, from which a lion's share of Chinese trade, Chinese export reach the world. And China is keeping itself internally stable, unlike India, because India is a democracy, while India does have a heavy-handed approach if push comes to shove, but generally there will be a political process going on, there'll be talks going on. It's a democracy, not a perfect democracy, but hey, democracy is not perfect anywhere. See the latest example of America, where even today Trump refuses to sort of accept the fact that he's lost the elections. So democracy is not a perfect thing, but it's the best thing we've got, best system that we've got in the world. China does not believe in democracy. What China believes in is keeping India unstable. An unstable India will ensure that India does not grow outward, become a global superpower, and it will ensure that China grows without any checks and balances. It has set up Confucius institutes everywhere to propagate Chinese philosophy, the Chinese way of thinking. When you have violence in an apple factory in South India, guess who takes to Twitter? It is Chinese and Pakistani handles. And China suddenly says, oh, look at India, it's so unstable. Why are you, investing in India? It's tagging Apple. This is what China does. This is exactly what you must do to China. Make sure that China fractures from inside. So when I'm talking about China, what I mean to say is the Communist Party of China, the CCP, is the real villain of the piece. Now, there is an Australian website called news.com.au. And this website, you can go and see the article. It's available on the internet. It says that active members, more than 2 million active members of the Chinese Communist Party have infiltrated the top echelons of Fortune 500 companies like Boeing, companies like Pfizer, companies like Volkswagen, such companies which are global icons. They have infiltrated into these companies. And a very senior, very senior Chinese Communist Party member says that we know how America works, We know how American democracy works. And for that reason alone, we have infiltrated into Wall Street. So by infiltrating into Wall Street, we can now influence White House decision making. This is how the Chinese think. They use your systems against you. So they read your systems. They send their students to study your systems. They will send their scholars, their PhD scholars into America, into India, into other countries to read about us, to understand how we think, how we function. Then they come back to China, they make a plan, and then they attack our countries. So this entire thing about China is a military superpower. No, that's just an insurance policy of China. China has never fought a successful war in the past 50 years. Please go and check the internet and you'll find out China has a very dismal record. It got thrashed by Vietnam in 1979. So to think that China is a huge military power, it's not. China is the Chinese Communist Party is a vicious snake, and the Chinese Communist Party is the one who's actually trampling upon the human rights and democracy, which is the due of the Chinese people. Friends, the Chinese Communist Party and the PLA, which is the People's Liberation Army, is not the army of China. It is the armed wing of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. These two entities need to be controlled. They need to be brought to their knees. And the way to do it is democracy. Spread the virus, inject the virus of democracy into Chinese society. When I say virus, think of China as a server. Think of China as a server. It exists, but it is dormant. You need to make it active. When I use the term virus, I don't mean it in a derogatory sense. I mean it in a positive sense. You inject it into the Chinese bloodstream. You inject it into Chinese society. Let the Chinese people come out on the road. Let them come out on the road. Let them question their leaders. Let them block roads. Let China become a huge Hong Kong. And then China will start to fracture from inside. You cannot defeat China from outside. China is simply too powerful economically. China has people inside Wall Street. I won't be surprised if China has people inside the White House. UK is already infiltrated. And, even France, even other places like Russia and all, most of these countries have been infiltrated by the Chinese. Smaller countries. Look at what's happening in Nepal. Look what is happening in Maldives or even Sri Lanka. Pakistan is anyway sold out, 100%. China will never stop, and you cannot stop China from the outside. It can't be done. You can't stop China from the outside. You have to rein in China from the inside. And when you have released this thought of democracy into China, when you've given it life, when the people of China actually, through regular content, social media handles, through platforms like New York Times, Washington Post, right? And other global platforms, the CNN, Fox News, Al Jazeera, when these people continue to talk about democracy in China, when there is sustained pressure on China, there will be information that will percolate inside China. And at that time, you will realize that China is actually hemorrhaging from inside. And that will result in the great fall of China.